Okay, so I think we'll take a little short break from the C++ work. And, we have all our attributes in our display there. When we do the if we do the debug, show debug for the ability system, we have all of these attributes here, so that's good. And we do want to be able to obviously interact and set those. So what I would like to do at this point is we're going to create some gameplay effects, and we're going to use these gameplay effects. We're going to apply them to the character when the character first starts up, and gives them their default attributes of whatever they want those to be. So what we're going to do in here is I'm going to make a new folder, although I don't like doing folders very much. I'm going to just put here defaults. Okay. And inside this, I'm going to create a new blueprint class. Go to all classes. I'm going to go gameplay effect, because we're going to apply them as a gameplay effect. So we're going to select that, and I'm going to call this one BP HFX, and these will be our primary attributes. We're going to open that up, and here we got some interesting stuff. So we want it to apply instantly, right? They're either that or it has a duration, so we're going to say instant. And I think we can just go straight to modifiers. I don't know, it doesn't really need to have a component at this point. So this modifier, we're going to add a modifier. If we scroll this open a bit, we'll have this drop down, and we'll see all of our attributes from our attribute set. And so we can look at these and determine how do we want them to be set. So our health is probably going to be set to our maximum health to start with. How is our maximum health going to be determined? Well, maximum health is probably determined based on our main attributes. Something to do with strength, maybe. Definitely something to do with constitution. And so if we start with these ones are being our primary, so I'm going to just quickly add in them so that we can separate them out. So I'm going to say strength was an attribute. I'm going to add another modifier, and I'm going to make this one intelligence. I'm going to add another one, expand it, and I'm going to say wisdom. I'm going to expand another one, and we're going to add wisdom dexterity, and I'm going to add another one for our constitution, and we'll add another one for our charisma. So you can make your list of all your primary ones. And what we're going to do is, so for strength, the modifier operation is going to be add, because we're basically, I think it's add. Oh, no, we want it to override. So we kind of want a starting component, starting value here. We're going to override whatever strength is, because these are our defaults. And the modifier magnitude, I'm going to leave it right now as a scalable float. So in other words, whatever we type in here is going to be what it's going to be set to. So I'm going to say strength starts at 8. right? Whatever the number is that you want it to be, or maybe we make them, I want them all to be different so we can see that they're actually being different. For intelligence, we're going to make it an override, and the magnitude is going to be, oh, well, he's a sack of hammers. He's intelligence of 6. Wisdom, override, we will start him off with a wisdom of, I don't know, 7. Dexterity, we're going to override, and we'll add that to be a 9. So, you know, a little bit more dexterous than most. And the Constitution, going to override, and his magnitude is going to be, I don't know, let's say 10. And Charisma, we can add override. It'll be a magnitude of 5. He's got a lot of work to do there. Now there's all sorts of things that you can add. Like you can make curve tables so that it would vary based on what level and stuff like that. But right now we'll just since these are just our defaults, we're going to just set them to be these values here. So I'm going to compile and save that. And we're going to go back to our browser here, and I'm going to make another one, a blueprint class, gameplay effect. And this one's going to be BP underscore HFX secondary attributes. Okay, and I open this one. So these are our secondary attributes. So let's, in the same way, we're going to go to our modifiers. We're going to add, I'm going to expand, and I'm going to select our secondary ones. So those were max health. Just going to go down the line like I did before. I'm going to add another one. I'm going to go for max stamina. Add another one. And max mana. I might speed this up, but maybe I don't. Max mana, health regen. This one is stamina regen. And oh, here it is down here. And then we've got mana regen. Oh, sorry, that's max mana. Oh, did I miss one? Max stamina, max mana, health regen, stamina regen. This one I want to be mana regen. Another one. Physical defense. Add another one. Speed. Add another one. Willpower. Add another one. Perception. And one more. One more for our influence. Okay, so for this, we don't want to actually hard code a number here. We could, but that would be less desirable. We want these to be a result of our primary attributes. So I'm going to leave the maximum health, stamina, and mana aside for now. I'm going to ultimately probably change a lot of these, but I'm just going to let's say our health regen is a is attribute based. So if we say that it's attribute based, we get some more options here. And what we can do is these are some values, some coefficients to fill in this formula. And if you can't read that, I'll read it out. It's basically the quantity of of a coefficient times a quantity sum of the pre-multiply additive value plus some evaluated attribute value. You take that sum of those two items, multiply it by a coefficient, and then you can then add a post-multiply additive value. So in other words, for health regen, which is what I'm on, my post multiply additive value is kind of like your base. You would add that, and because you're always going to have that. So, and think of this as a per second number. So it's going to be, let's say, 1. And our pre-multiply additive value um, is going to be, let's say it's a zero point 0.1, and our coefficient is, 0.5, whatever the value is. You can work out a spreadsheet later, but and I think to me, this function, this backing attribute should be the first thing in the list because this makes more sense. So what attribute should health regen be based on? So if you select the backing attribute, so what attribute to capture, we want it to be based on the Constitution, right? Let's say we base it on the Constitution, and the attribute source, in this particular case, it's going to be the same because for this, the source, since we're going to be applying these as default, the source and the target are going to be both the same because the source is going to be our character and we're going to be applying it to the target, which is going to be our character. So for this case, this doesn't really matter. But it would matter when, if you're picking up an object or whatever. So I'm going to leave this as source because it doesn't matter. And snapshot is, if I recall, has something to do, oh, I don't remember exactly. We'll come across that again. We'll be playing with a lot of this stuff again another time. And then that's pretty much it. Attribute calculation type. I think I leave that alone. Maybe this should be target. Well, again, it doesn't matter, but target makes more sense because we are applying it to, even though it's from this same value. I'm going to leave it as source because we're taking the attribute from the source of ourselves, and then we're gonna do the math on that. So I'm going to pause that and set these for, well, what I might do, let's do this. Oh, I shouldn't do that because I want to go to another thing before we do that. Oh, again, this value, again, being a startup value, should be set to override. So we want to select our attribute that we want to set, our secondary attribute. We want to override it. We want to make it attribute based. Then we select your primary attribute that you want to base it on. And then you can give it some coefficients. And if you mouse over this attribute base magnitude, you'll see the workout of the formula, and you can see what it turns out to be. Okay, so then we can compile and save that. And so I'm going to let you, I'm going to pause the video here and set up a bunch of these for secondary, and then we'll be back after that. So I'm done, and I see that I've also made an incorrect thing here, but we'll fix that right now. So I went through and I've created them for my health regen. I based it on constitution. My stamina regen, I based on strength. Mana regen, I based off of intelligence. Physical defense, I based off of dexterity. Speed, based off of dexterity. Willpower, I've based off of intelligence. Perception, I based off of wisdom. And influence, I based off of charisma. And then what I didn't do correctly is these first three here, max health, max stamina, max mana. Those are actually our vital attributes. So I don't want them here because they're not secondary as we've set them up. So I'm going to delete these three, and I'm going to compile and save that. And so while this is good, right? So they have a relationship to a primary stat, so that would um, be a good way to affect them. There's other things here too, which I haven't got into yet with gameplay tags yet, but it looks like we can do many more different uh, changes or modifications to everything as well. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. I just had this closed up and then I got a little bit confused here for a second, but um, so yeah, we're good now. But what you might want to wonder is, well, what if, and we'll follow this on here. Let me just come here and create another gameplay effect. So I'm going to do another blueprint, and we're going to do gameplay effect, and this one's going to be BP underscore HFX vital attributes. Oh, I did make something. I did a I did need those other ones in secondary. Okay, we can still go in here. Let's go in here, and these ones will be pretty straightforward. These ones are straightforward. So this one, I want to set my health. It's going to be an override, and it's going to be attribute based, and it's going to be based on, oops, it's going to be based on max health. And similarly, we'll add, I'm going to add two more here. I'll add one for stamina. It's going to be an override. And the magnitude is going to be attribute based. And the magnitude of that is going to be based on our maximum stamina. And the third one here is going to be our mana. It's going to be an override. The magnitude is going to be attribute based. And we want it to be set using our max mana. Okay, I'm going to compile and save that one. So let's go back. Okay, so I did what I didn't do. I'm gonna just collapse all these because reduce some confusion here. I'm going to add 3 of them back. And so I'm going to add back max health. And I'm going to add back max stamina. And I'm going to add back max mana. So the other option that's in here and that we're going to probably make use of more than not. Again, that wants to be an override. The magnitude is a custom calculation class. So if I select that, then we get to select a calculation class. We don't have any yet. So we need to create one of those. So I'm going to compile and save this, and we're going to go and create this custom calculation class. And what we're going to do for that is going to go down to our C++ classes, public, ability system. Ability system, and I'm going to make a new C++ class here. And we're going to go to all classes. And I'm going to look for gameplay mod magnitude calculation, an MMC. And I'm going to say next. This is where all of a sudden class names get too long, eh? So I'm just going to call this MMC base so that we can derive custom ones from this in blueprint form in an easier way. But we'll define a basic structure in C++. So we're going to leave that in, I'm going to put them in a subfolder for MLC. Don't know why, but I'm going to. Okay, and we're going to create that class. Say no. I'm going to save all. I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to reload all. So I've got this base magnitude calculation thing here now. And what we want to do with that is I want to create a more general um, method for calculating um, our calculated coefficients or values. And so what I'm going to need here is we're going to need a public section and well, I don't know if I need it. I don't think I need it, but I'm going to protected section and private section, which I think is what we're going to have mostly. So in the public section, we need to have a constructor. So I'm just going to copy this. That get created. And there's nothing in it. Maybe I don't need it, but I got it. Future proofing myself. And I think so the function that we want to override is I think it's a client RPC or something like that. Is that right? No. Let me just take a moment here. So it's a virtual float called calculate base magnitude implementation. And it wants to have a constant F gameplay effect spec reference. We'll call it spec. And the function is a constant and we're overriding it. Okay. So yeah, the implementation call is something that needs to be dated because it's a server side call. And when we looked at the in the class for the object, we got the where was it here? Calculate base magnitude. But when I go into the CPP file for that, here's calculate base magnitude implementation. And so it's this that we want to override in our class. So that's what we're overriding the implementation. And this is where we're going to do here. So there is, I believe, in this a function called get captured attribute magnitude. And it wants a few things. So it wants an attribute captured definition, a gameplay effect spec, an aggregator evaluator of parameters, and a magnitude float. So let's put some of that together. So I'm going to start with just a float value for the attribute value. I'm going to define it to be 0.f to start. And so we're going to throw a couple of commas in here, and I'm going to put the attribute value here. Okay. One of the next easier things to put in is the F aggregator evaluator parameters, which is the second value here, or the third value here. It's being passed in as as a reference. So this is something that's going to get filled in as part of this get. So we just need to create one to pass it in. So I'm just going to say create params for function get. So it's an F aggregate or evaluate parameters. It's a mouthful. We'll call it eval params. So here we can put in our eval params. And now what are we missing here? Let's throw in a thing here. Gameplay effect spec. So that's passed in when we call this. So this is just our spec. So that one was easy. And now it's this first one, which is the gameplay effect attribute capture definition. And so if I was to make one of those, so that's an F gameplay effect attribute capture definition. If I called it attribute, then I would be able to pass in attribute here. Okay. So what I want to do though is I want this to be a little bit of a more generic class. So I want to be able to in the blueprint, I want to be able to create um, a an array of these values. I'm a little bit confused what I've done here. Anyways, so I guess maybe just go here. I'm sorry about this again, but we'll all stumble through it eventually. So I want to see here. I think there's a item called relevant attributes to capture. So this is the attributes to capture that are relevant to the calculation. So that's what I want to do. And so what I really want to do is I want to loop through this T array of attribute capture definitions. And then I'm going to apply or do calculations on all of these attributes. So I want to actually do a for loop through this attribute of relevant attributes to capture. And inside this for loop, I'm going to be doing these functions. Okay. And since we're going to so let me just add a line here. So after we've did this capture, we're going to be able to get this attribute value, right? Because it again is going to fill in this magnitude from these relevant attributes. It's confusing. So now we can set our attribute value equal to, and we're going to clamp this just to make it sure that it doesn't get too goofy. We're going to clamp it to the maximum of a float of our attribute value, well, attribute value and 0.f. So we're not going to be negative. And what doesn't it not like about my situation here? It might want our attribute set. So let's do an include our ability system slash hfx attribute set.h. Is that what you wanted? Oh, It's not attribute. This is attribute value. Sorry. Okay. And now what I want to return, let me go there because this is going to help a lot. What I want to return is some sort of base value. And I want to add to that, well, let me do it this way. I'm going to do it in a comment. So I'm going to I want to return a base value plus some coefficient, and I'll pretend that there's an array of them. So there's coefficient 1 times attribute 1, plus a whole bunch of those. And then finishing with an additional level multiplier, right? Because usually in most games, as you level up, you get some more base value added on. So a level multiplier times a player level. So this base value and these coefficients and this level multiplier, I want to be properties that I can add. So if I go into my base and go into private, and I can create a U property, edit anywhere, so that it can be adjusted. And I'm going to make a float called base value. I'm going to equal it to 1.f just to have a value because I don't want it to be 0. And another U property, edit anywhere, and float. It'll be a level multiplier. I'm going to default that to 1.f. And in my blueprint, I'm going to want to have an array of attribute coefficients. So in the blueprint, we're going to assign, like, we're going to pick an attribute, strength, and then we're going to be able to assign a coefficient to it, 5, right? And that's how that's going to work. So then we'll be able to select multiple different attributes with different coefficients, and we'll generate this more complicated formula and then produce our final result. So this one is going to be a U property as well of edit anywhere. And it's going to be a T array of type float. And I'm going to call it attribute coefficients. Okay, so now if I go back into here, I'm going to have I want to build the attribute contribution. I'm going to start off with a float of attribute contribution, which is the kind of this going to be this middle chunk, right? Attribute contribution, and we're going to set it to 0 to start because we're going to be looping through it. And because we're going to be grabbing the index value from our T array, I'm going to need an index. So I'm going to take an int 32 of index, and I'll start that to be 0 for our for loop. So then our attribute contribution is going to be plus equals our attribute coefficient at the index that we're at multiplied by our attribute value that we were going to be pulling from, right? And then we'll increase our index. So now we'll have this full attribute contribution, which is going to be all of these coefficients times their attribute values. And now we can just return our base value, which is a number that's going to be set in our blueprint, plus our attribute contribution, which is all those different multiplications. And then we're going to add our level multiplier, and we're going to multiply that by our player level. Our player level? I don't have a player level. So we don't have a player level. So right now I'm going to just make that 1.f. We'll create that after we do some other things. So that gives me a base class to implement a custom calculation that we can make blueprints of and then apply those in our coefficients. So I'm going to save that and I'm going to build this, and we are hopefully going to be successful, and we are successful. Now I'm going to start her back up. And I'm going to go into our content browser under blueprints, gas. That's where our attributes are. And we've got our ability system MMC, our base MMC here. And so I'm going to go up into our blueprint gas folder, and I'm going to make a new subfolder here for MMCs. And so then if I go into my MMC here, and if I right click and I say create a blueprint from that, and if I put it in my gas MMCs, and this one, I'm going to go BP underscore MMC MMC, I'm going to say max health. Okay, and so I'm going to say create that. And so here we are. And here's my attribute coefficient array, my base value, and my level multiplier. So I can add a coefficient here. And so I can say, you know, it's 5. And the 5 and the base value is kind of our minimum, right? So we're going to say everybody can start with at least 10 hit points. And our level multiplier, well, we're going to leave it as 1 for now for this. Yeah, level multiplier multiplied by the player level. Uh, yeah, whatever. We can make it 2. So we could add a, what am I missing? I'm missing my attributes. Okay, obviously I just didn't see what I thought I was missing something because I was like, well, where's my attributes to select? Like, where are these relevant attributes to capture? It wasn't making a lot of sense to me. And so, but it's right here, relevant attributes to capture. So we need to click this one. And so for array element one, for my maximum health, let's say I want maximum health to be based off of my strength, right? And again, the source is fine. And I could then add another element here and another element here. And so for index one, um, so for index zero, I'm saying um, for index zero, I'm saying a base value of, so we have a base value of 10 for maximum health. We have a level multiplier of 2, which right now we've hard coded a level of 1. And then I want to take 5 times my strength value. Plus, I want another portion of for maximum health. I want it to be somewhat it should be based on your constitution and it's how healthy you are, right? And so your maximum health maybe is 10 times or maybe 10 times your constitution, right? And 3 times your health, 3 times your strength. And now you could also say, well, also I'm interested in that. Maybe it might be fun that your intelligence has a small effect on your health because if you're healthy, you're not going to eat garbage, or if you're smart, you're not going to eat garbage, right? And so let's say maybe there's a 1.1 times multiplier of your intelligence to your maximum health, right? So we can compile that and save that. And so now if I go and look at my vital or my secondary attributes, because this was for maximum health. If I go into secondary attributes and I scroll down to the bottom here where we had our maximum health and we set it to be a custom calculation class, here I can now take my BP MMC maximum health. And even again, you could apply this whole calculation class again with the coefficient, the pre-multiply and the post-multiply and everything else and using curve tables and stuff. So I have to say it's could be remarkably complicated and the you'd probably want a curve table of some sort of overall coefficient in front of all of this. And maybe that's where your player level can be adjusted as well. But we now know how we could modify that calculation class because we can either go back to our CPP class, like our C++ class, and change our calculation here, right? Change this to be something more appropriate as we develop a different game with a little bit more complexity or maybe a little bit simpler complexity or whatever. We know how we can do that here, and then that will translate into our blueprint of our item, right? And then that would translate into how we might want to use curve tables and these coefficients at this point. So there's a lot of adjustability here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a stamina and a mana max blueprint in the same way. So if I just go back here, um, I could just duplicate this and I'm going to just change it to be maximum stamina. And if I open that one, um, stamina probably has something to do with strength. Probably has something to do with constitution. Probably doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. Anything else? No, I don't think so. Maybe so. I'll delete that one. And the coefficients, I gotta make sure I delete that one here too. Stamina, maybe the maximum stamina, the minimum stamina is 5. Um, and strength is maybe it's 5 times the strength and 5 times the constitution. So we can compile that and save that. And we can duplicate this again. I'll duplicate this one. And so this one was maximum mana. And I can open up that one. And max mana. I'm going to say it has nothing to do with strength. Might have something to do with constitution. But let me just delete all of these. And we'll start over. I'm going to delete all of those. Start a new one. So the first element for mana should be intelligence. That's probably the most important one. And it's going to be 10 times the intelligence. And I would like to have it to be adding to something different as well. And so we got intelligence, maybe some wisdom. Wisdom's probably a pretty good one. We'll add another coefficient for it. The wisdom, maybe 5 times the wisdom. Uh, yeah, or maybe 10. Maybe it's 10 times wisdom. Wisdom and intelligence, they're both good. And maybe one other one. What else would be a possibility here? Mana. Charisma? Nah. Dexterity? No. Constitution? Maybe if you're a little bit healthier, right? Maybe you have better ability to have better magical strength as well. So, but maybe it's lightly to the Constitution, you know. And so we can compile and save that. So if I go back now to my secondary attributes, and if I pull to maximum stamina, and I want to do an override, and I want to do a custom calculation class with a calculation class of maximum stamina. And leave these all as 1, or 1 and zeros. And then for mana, again, we'll do an override. And we'll go to our modifier type, custom calculation, and max mana. Okay. So I compile that and save. Now this will not do anything. So yeah, if I go in here and push play, right? I'm running around, and if we go and show the debug of the ability system, everything's still 0, right? That's because we haven't applied these effects, these gameplay effects, to our character yet. So we'll need to do that. First of all, we need to be able to set them so that the character knows that these exist, and then we can apply them to the character, and then we'll have them applied, and we'll be so much further advanced. Okay, so that's the end of that video. That's a long one, and I'm sorry I kind of went astray here and there, but yeah, I'm learning. I'm relearning as I go, and hopefully it's helping you uh, get your template up and running as well. Thanks a lot, bye guys, and if you liked it, fantastic. If you thought it was a little bit bumbly, well, like it anyways and subscribe, and